Progress.
Okay, good morning everyone. Shalom Aleichem, Rucham Abam. Thanks for joining today. We're continuing in Mishna Berura Daf Hashavua. We're up to Siman Nun Hey. We're in the middle of Seif. The Mechaber in Seif said if you have 10 in one place and they say Kaddish or Kedusha, even someone not with them could answer. However, some say there cannot be an interruption. There cannot be a hefsek of something which is dirty or avodah zarah, because that would create a separation. So even though you have 10 people in the shul and you have somebody, obviously he's more than 4 ames away from the tzaya, still it creates a hefsek. So the Mishna Berura says, Sivkatan samach she'eni imam ratzolaimer afilu b'bayis acher. Even if he's in another house, rachik legamri, very far away, shekivan she'asara him b'makom echad, since the 10 are in one place, shechina shruya b'neiam, the shechina resides among them. V'az afilu mechitza shel barzel ena mafsekes ben kol mi sheroitz l'tzaref atzmim aviv shebashamayim hashoichem esoich elu hasara. Then, even if you have an iron wall, nothing could interpose between someone who wants to join with HaKadosh Baruch who resides among these 10 people. Now, the lashon of the Mishna Berura is anyone who wants to join is able to join. That implies you're not mechuyev to. That's what Rav Shlomo Zalman proves from here. The lashon of the Shulchan Aruch is yachal la'anois. I would say humbly that it's not conclusive. By the way, Rabbi Yashiv agrees. Reb Chaim Kanievsky brings from the Chazon Ish is a chiyuv. The lashon of the Mishna Berura is yachal. Yeah, once you can, you have to. In other words, once we say that it's not an interruption, so you're able to. But any davar shegdush you're able to answer. Of course, you're chayiv to answer. And Reb Chaim Falaji in Nishmas Kol Chai. I never even heard of that sefer. Shalos Teshuvos Nishmas Kol Chai. Wow, that you have to answer even if you heard it from another minyan. Therefore, says Reb Chaim Falaji, you should not daven in a shul that from the minyan you could hear another minyan, because you would be mechuyev to answer that other minyan as well. Yesh ladan b'zeh. Let's say I'm davening in a shtiblach, and I could hear a kedusha of another minyan. Am I now mechuyev? Meaning, you could. The Chazon Ish just said that any time you're able to answer amen, you're mechuyev to answer amen. So says Reb Chaim Falaji, based on that, you really should not daven in a shul that you could hear another minyan, because then you're basically putting yourself in a situation where you're going to have to answer to 2 minyanim.
So what? What's wrong with answering? What's wrong with answering the other minyan? Assuming it's not a hefsek where you're holding, but if it's a hefsek you're not supposed to anyway.
A question. Okay, good question. So here's another monkey wrench, and that is every time you're allowed to answer amen and mechuyev to answer amen mean you should put yourself in that situation that you'll have to be mafsik and interrupt what you're in the middle of to answer amen. In other words, I'm in the middle of Psukei de Zimra. You're right, there's certain answers I'm going to have to answer. If I come late, I'm going to have to... But you really shouldn't have done that. You really should have put yourself in a situation where you shouldn't be interrupting. Yeah, once you're in that matzav, you're mechuyev to answer amen and be mafsik, but you shouldn't put yourself into the situation, perhaps. That's what seems what Reb Chaim Falaji is saying. Don't put yourself in a matzav where the whole davening you're going to be interrupting to answer. You're right, you'd be allowed to and you would have to, but maybe you shouldn't put yourself in that situation.
What about multiple kaddish at different speeds?
Yeah. It seems like that would not be ideal either. In other words, you mean do you have to answer every kaddish? That's what it seems like. Reb Chaim Falaji is saying, or the Chazon Ish is saying, you're going to have to answer. I mean, we did have that. I have to remember, we had that if it's within like reasonable proximity, one answer is going to work for both. Okay, says Mishna Berura, yachal la'anois. Oh, okay, so, the Dirshu brings that if you're in the middle of davening and a place that you're allowed to answer amen, and you hear a random bracha, somebody's saying Berachas HaShachar, and you're in the middle of Pesukei Zimra, so you're allowed to answer amen, or you're in the middle of learning a Tosfos, Vim Taimar, and the guy answers, so now I have to stop my Tosfos to answer amen? So the Shevet HaLevi says, no, you don't have to answer. You shouldn't answer. Rav Shlomo Zalman says, even though you're pater from answering amen, you're pater from answering amen Yishmei Rabbah, Kedusha, Barchu, Moedim, it's very nicker, therefore you should answer. However, Talmud Torah Shel Rabbim, in other words, you're giving a shir, and you overhear a guy saying Kaddish, Kedusha, or Baruch, you don't stop. You don't stop. Okay. Weiter in the Mishna Berura. Yachal anes amen v'amen Yishmei Rabbah Kedusha Baruch v'chein yachal hoitzia yedei chayvasa betfila imeinoi baki. You could be moitzi him in davening. V'yesh oimrim that you have to make sure that there's no hefsek. Midakasav Shulchan Aruch din zeh b'lashon v'yesh oimrim. From the fact that the Shulchan Aruch writes this din as a yesh oimrim, mashma de din zeh lo psikale. It's mashma that this din is not definitive. V'chein mashma harama b'siman ayin tes of aleph b'haga. Likewise, it's mashma in the Rama. Delay sphere like him, he doesn't hold this way. Chumay shekasav ha'magen avram sham. V'ayin b'chay adam shekasav. Look in the Chay Adam who writes, the niraloi, the amen yehishmei Rabbah, u'kedusha ya'aneh. Amen yehishmei Rabbah and kedusha you should answer. The haverak psukim. Because big deal, you said yehishmei Rabbah and kedusha. Again, you hear the situation, you're very far away from the shul. In between, there's tzaya. So there's no problem for you to say the Divrei Kedusha. The question is, could you connect to the minyan? So Chay Adam says that, again, it's not definitive that you have to be careful about there not being tzaya. So the Chay Adam's hachra is that if there is avodah zarah or tzaya, amen yehishmei Rabbah and kedusha you could say, because it's just a pasuk. They say, what do you mean? Amen yehishmei Rabbah is a pasuk? What pasuk in Chumash is amen yehishmei Rabbah? Anyone know? Amen yehishmei Rabbah is Targum. Is what? Oh yeah? Yehi Shem Hashem Mevayrach. Where is that in Tehillim? What? I was going to say it's the Targum of Baruch Shem Kvod Malchus Olam Va'ad. The only thing is Baruch Shem Kvod Malchus Olam Va'ad is not a pasuk. Is it? I'm not familiar with a pasuk Baruch Shem Kvod Malchus Olam Va'ad. Avo Baruch Hu Lo Yaneh V'ayin B'levush Yisrad. Okay, it's very interesting. You can't even answer amen according to this opinion. Even if it's distance from it more than 4 amos. Even if it's distance from it more than 4 amos, that normally you could just turn away your face. If the smell doesn't reach you, here it doesn't help. Since it interposes between the 10 and the guy who wants to join. So then, it's a hefsik between the shchina and it causes a shchina not to dwell there. So again, you're not within Daled Amos of the Tsaya. So you could say Dvarim Shebekdusha, but the Tsaya causes a hefsek between you and the Dvarim Shebekdusha. Akum Reitzaloimer Avodas Koichavim Oy Oved Koichavim. Akum means an Avodah Zara or a guy. Now, by the way, think about it. If you're on, let's say, a plane, and they want to make one of these minyanim where people are sitting, and you're going to be mitzaref the 10 Jews, a guy in aisle A1, a guy in C3, a guy in F. Yeah, but there are goyim in between. You can't make a minyan. that for sure you can't be mitzdarif people to a minyan because you have a hefsek of oivdei koichavim, unless they're Muslims. So then they're not oivdei koichavim. It would be a machlokes whether that's avodah zarah or not. You could start asking them. I'm sure this will be a very smooth flight. You could start farhering them about which prophets they believe in, who they believe is God, and after interrogation, you'll be able to see if you can make a minyan or not.
What if somebody has an aid?
What?
Somebody has an aid in shul.
Again, is the guy in the back row and the aid is in between him and the tzibor? Or, if that's the case, you might have a problem. But if Stam, the guy is davening in the shul, and there's an aid next to him, so he's like, he's connecting to the minyan from the other side. We're talking about somebody who's far away, and in between him and the shul is an oivei koichavim. Yeah, it's interesting. Sif Chaf Aleph. Ir she'ein ba ela asar ve'echad mehem roitz latzes v'yom hanaram. Okay, you have a city of 10 people. And one guy wants to go away for Yom Tov. He wants to go away for Rosh Hashanah. Mechayvin oisel yishar. We obligate him to stay. Oy lahasker acharim come, or to rent someone out to come. V'imheim achad asar roitz matzah shnayim. If there are 11 and 2 want to go, yaskiru shneim echad b'shutfis. So the 2 want to go, they have to jointly hire someone, b'mekaymam. Ushnehem yifra'u b'shaveh. And they both pay equally. V'mechad ani v'echad asher. If one of the guys who wants to go is poor, and one of the guys who wants to go is rich, payrin chetzil lefi mamayin v'chetzil lefi nefashos. So 50% of, let's say it costs $100 to bring a guy in to make a minyan. 50 of the dollars, 50% will be lefi nefashos, meaning I pay 20, Reuven pays 25 and Shimon pays 25. The other 50 is based on their economic status. So if Reuven is 4 times as rich as Shimon, Reuven will give 40 and Shimon will give 10. Okay? And uschar hachazan al hayotzim ka al hanesharim, paying for the chazan to come to the city devolves on those who leave the city as well as those who stay in the city. Says the Mishna Berura, b'mekaymai, either we force the 10th guy to remain or to hire someone in his place. Since the minyan throughout Klal Yisrael is even in a place where they don't have a minyan the whole year, the minhag is they hire 1 or 2 people in Yom Naram, minyan, or they go to a place of a minyan. It's like if a shul needs a Sefer Torah, or a shul, you're allowed to force each other to participate. Now, if you have 11 and 2 want to go, if 12 are in the city, 3 want to go, you have 13 and 4 want to go. They all have to chip in to bring somebody. Now, the Mechaber said that if one of them is poor and one is rich, they pay half lefi mamayin and half lefi nefashos. Says the Mishna Berura, Achronim kazu tas sofer. The Achronim write that this is an error. That we don't do half lefi mamayin and half lefi nefashos, but rather they pay equally. Each one has a responsibility to get a substitute. Because at first it was a whole minyan, and you're not permitted to mevatel a minyan. You know when you have to give chetzio lefi mamayin? You know when the payment is based on economic status? If at first you only have 8 people who ever lived in the city, and now the tzrichen liskar shnayim, now you're going to have to hire 2. The az talya gam lefi mamayin. because then it will be dependent also on financial status. You know why? Because the aniyim could say, we'll go to a nearby city. The aniyim could go to a nearby city. They're going to have to share a restroom with someone and it's not going to be comfortable. The aniyim say, we don't care. The wealthy guy says, I can't leave my house. Now, I don't know why the Mishna Berura said that it's when there are 8 people. L'chayra, it should be even if there are 9 people and you don't have a minyan. Where the aniyim could say, I'll go to another city. And the Ashirim could say, well, we can't leave. So the aniyim say, fine, you want us to hire, but you need to pay more. So I don't know why the Mishna Berura says, V'had denoisin chetziyai, hainu kishe'ein daram b'yishuv ela shmaina. Why shmaina? Why not tesha?
Maybe they're counting the fact they're hiring a chazan. It's been mentioned that everyone brings in a chazan for Yom Narayim anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really understand. I'm not sure. Not sure that's your homework over Shabbos. Why did the Mishna Berura say, does anybody have a different kind? Is there a Tas Sefer here? Why does he say 8, even 9? Meaning, when you have 10, nobody's allowed to leave. So even if an ani wants to leave, let's say you have 10 and 2 people are leaving, so then they both have to give equally. But l'chayra, again, it has to be that 2 people want to leave. So if you have 8, then, and you have to hire another 2, the aniyim l'chayra could say, we could go to a nearby city. But what does it have to do with 8? I'm not sure. Okay, Rabbi Glatstein, have a good Shabbos. Thanks for joining today. Kol Tov. Okay.